Good morning. Hi, I'm Carrie Driscoll. I am Major Connie Shingledecker's daughter. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to celebrate my mother, Major Connie Shingledecker. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for being such an important and influential part of my mother's life and career. We truly appreciate you being a part of this special day. My mom is the strongest. Sorry. I don't know if I can do this. I'm sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
I got this. If she cries, I know I'm going to start crying because this is not good.
My mom is the strongest and bravest woman I know. She began her career at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office in 1977 when women in a male-dominated field were few and far between. My mother was a pioneer.
You go.
My mother was a pioneer and helped pave the way for women in law enforcement. Her stories about being pregnant on the road are pretty entertaining, and I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it was to move up through the ranks, but if anyone could accomplish it, it was my mom. My mother is also the hardest working, smartest, knowledgeable, and most dedicated person I know. When I was in 6th grade, she spent 3 months at the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia, to help improve the administration of justice and raise law enforcement standards, knowledge, and cooperation at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. One of my fondest memories was operating as co-pilot for my dad on our drive up to Virginia to celebrate my mom as she graduated in the 185th class from the academy. Then, fast forward a couple of years, while I was studying 8th grade math, my mom was taking night and weekend classes to earn her degree in public administration with a minor in criminology from St. Leo University. She graduated summa cum laude, so you could say I pretty much had the best role model a girl could ask for. Words cannot even begin to express how incredibly proud I am of my mother and all of her accomplishments. My mom has devoted most of her life serving Manatee County and has been an advocate and voice for the children of this community for 39 years. Many of my childhood memories consisted of events and activities surrounding the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. My mother has worked full-time my entire life, but I've never felt her absence. She somehow split herself in two and make work feel like they had 100% and made me feel that way too. I'm not sure how she did it, and I can only hope to be half of the mother that she has been to me. My mom is truly one in a million. If anyone knows my mom, they know that this next chapter in her life is going to be a bit challenging, trying to figure out what to do with all of this newfound freedom and extra time on her hands. She's used to being extremely active and absorbed in work and community organizations. But I can say that I am selfishly thrilled to be able to spend more quality time with her. And Mom, you can feel free to volunteer as a babysitter for my future kids anytime. We wouldn't want you to get bored or anything.
Okay.
I could not have asked for a better mother, and I am so incredibly proud to see you achieve this milestone. I am also sure those who could not be here today, like your mother and deceased colleagues, are smiling down and agreeing with me when I say it is well-deserved retirement. I will close with a quote that my mother and I hold very close. Life is not about the journey, but the destination. So Mom, now it's your time to sit back and enjoy the ride. Congratulations. I love you. Sorry, very sorry. Okay, so now we're going to view a video testimonial.
Connie Lee Shingledecker, married to Jimmy Lee Shingledecker, mother to Carrie Lee Shingledecker. Well, Connie, you started at the sheriff's office in 1977, and just a few months after your start, I started in 1978. And although your career went one direction and mine went another, as you'll recall, in 1993, we were both promoted to captain. And our careers came together then because of us being assigned as patrol captains. We shared ideas, we shared policies, we shared procedures, we developed those things together, and through all the years I considered you my sister. And just like sisters and brothers are, we didn't necessarily agree on some issues. But at the end of the day, I think that we both realized and came to a consensus on those issues, and then came to respect each other just a little bit more. So as you come to the end of your career, I just pray that you and Jimmy will have great health, and that you have many, many more years to go. And Carrie, you need to get started with some grandchildren. So God bless both of you.
I didn't know Connie when we started working together about 30 years ago. She was a new detective in the Sheriff's Office Crimes Against Children Division, and I was a new felony prosecutor. We were both handling child abuse cases, and although it wasn't articulated, I think we both assumed we were assigned to handle these cases because we were women at a time when there weren't many women in either field. I never learned more or worked harder than during this time. I never worked as closely with any detective than during the time I worked with you, Connie. Whenever I expressed a concern about a case, you were immediately on it. If you thought I made the wrong decision on a case, you told me so. You helped me prepare to meet victims. Their positive experiences with you paved the way for me. We took our responsibility to these children very seriously. We were a team, and together we resolved many, many cases. Not only did you make a great impact on the community, you were a great role model to me. At the time, we were both young mothers. We talked about our girls sometimes, and I remember you telling me about your experiences as a road deputy while you were still breastfeeding. Once you told me about your experiences, which involved coolers of dry ice and finding secluded places to pump milk while you were working on the road, there was no way I could give up and stop breastfeeding my daughter. Connie, there was never a time in my 20 years as an attorney that was more gratifying or more draining than the time we worked together. I will always have fond memories of those days, which don't seem that long ago. Connie, I could go on and on about your concern for and service to our community and how great your impact has been. But I'll end with the time we served together on the Children's Guardian Fund Board, which for me ended last year. From your first board meeting, you became an invaluable asset to the board. Within a short time, you already made your mark. Attending the last CGF annual luncheon, it was clear how great and relevant and important your impact has been. Connie, as you are set to begin your new life chapter, It is with great affection that I wish you the best always.
Connie, we've known each other a long time. Our paths crossed many years ago when we were both just starting out. And little did we know then how many cases we would both be involved in or how often we would work together and interact during our careers. I'll always remember you as a true professional, always on the side of victims, always demanding justice even when the odds were against us. You always expressed, and I always knew what your position was on every case or on any given issue, and I respected that. You have truly been a credit to your profession. Connie, I'm really glad I had the opportunity to say a few words today about you and about what I consider to be a very distinguished law enforcement career. You deserve the absolute best in retirement. And Connie, I can tell you from personal experience, retirement is a good thing. I hope this next phase of your life brings you and your family everything you want and more. Best wishes for a fulfilling and happy retirement.
Now I'd like to welcome the Honorable Sue Malucci. Please come up.
Congratulations, Connie, on your well-deserved and well-earned retirement. I know you're going to have a great next chapter in your life. I know you do all kinds of wonderful and fun things. And I can tell you from personal experience about grandchildren, they are great. They are fantastic, and I wish that you have many and that you spend much quality time with them. So good luck, and I'll be thinking of you always.
And next, I'd like to welcome retired Captain Mike Mayer to the stage.
Nobody told me I could tape the damn thing. That just ain't right. Seriously. I had the honor and the pleasure and the pain of being Connie's captain many, many years ago. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. It was an honor. It was a pleasure to work with Connie. She's the hardest working damn woman I've ever seen. I can't tell you how many times I have had to tell her to go home. Then I met Jimmy and could understand why she didn't want to. She has spent her entire adult life and much of her youth in dedication to law enforcement, and for the most part in dedication to the safety, welfare, and well-keeping of children. I know that from time to time we pick up a newspaper, turn on a TV, and we see where there has been an instance of child abuse, child neglect, resulting in tragedy, resulting in a death. And many times, hopefully not too many times, but from time to time, some of that is blamed on the neglect of law enforcement. And sadly enough, from time to time, that may be true. But I will tell you this, and I don't think there's a person in this room that could disagree with me. The children of Florida are one hell of a lot safer today because of Connie Shingledecker and the work she has done. And I'm talking about the whole state of Florida. I'm not just talking about Manatee County. She has been a driving force behind child welfare, child safety, and child protection for as long as I can remember. She came to work in we call it then the juvenile section of the sheriff's office. She had 2 people working in there with her. 2 people. And they weren't investigating child neglect or child abuse. For the most part, they were hunting missing children or runaways or crimes committed by children. And she built the Crimes Against Children section and the Crimes Against Children movement damn near single-handedly over a period of years. Now, she picked up a lot of help along the way, but I don't remember anyone being the driving force that she's been. And for that, she has my admiration, my respect, and my love. And that's it. I was told I had an hour, but again, I'm still a little pissed nobody told me I could tape it. So, okay, it's all yours. And incidentally, I will also never forget the fact that I served many times as a babysitter for this young lady behind me. I was, I might have been a captain, but I was still her damn babysitter. It didn't make any difference.
And next, if we could please have Luz Cuquera come up.
Well, it's a real honor for me to be here today. I met Connie Shingledecker in 2002, and I never knew that my life was going to change forever. I was the program director for Healthy Start Manatee and made an appointment with Connie to talk about the many infant deaths, which were known then and there as sudden infant deaths. When Connie sat down with me and she told me that in 2002, between 2000 and 2002, we had over 20 cases of babies that have died, and she had taken upon herself to look at every case to realize that those cases were not really SIDS, they were accidental infant death. And when she told me that those babies didn't need to die if we all put our efforts into reaching out the families, educating the community, and working with the parents in a way that they could go home with their babies and keep them safe. I remember going home and really feeling very sad about how we could let that happen. And as a community, we needed to do something. From that day, Connie became so passionate about educating the community. She reached out to pediatricians, to hospitals, to every place. She began developing this training to bring the awareness to the community, but also she was very sensitive to the cultural and linguistic issues that we face in the community. We launched shortly after Project Moses, which was really a project of love. I don't know if you ever heard that in Finland, especially, and so many European countries, they have these boxes that they provide to mothers when they leave the hospital. We came out with Project Moses, which basically was a laundry basket with a firm mattress and a liner. And Connie made sure that some of the inmates in prison were making those liners and the mattresses. Along those lines, we educated frontline workers and the community on accidental infant death, and her focus was always on prevention and education. Connie has a reputation not only statewide, but nationally. I attended a training at Georgetown University 4 years ago, and when we were talking about how to deal with grief, especially for mothers who have lost their baby due to accidental infant death, her name came up. And everybody almost knew about her reputation and talking about how we could reach out to her. Connie has been a role model for me. Her passion is boundless. She is a true children's champion and advocate. I will never forget Connie. And Connie, on behalf of the moms and babies, on behalf of the community, I want to thank you because you've worked tirelessly for the most vulnerable, for those little babies that didn't have a voice. And you use a particular tagline that says, we will never know the many lives we save, only the ones we lost. But I want to assure you that you have saved thousands of lives, and probably you don't know the names, but your work and your legacy will live on. Thank you and enjoy your retirement. I am a newly grandmother. It's the best job in the world. Yeah. Thank you.
There's a lot of pressure on us. Jeez. Okay. Well then, now we're going to have another look at a few more testimonials.
Major Connie Shingledecker, it is truly an honor to be able to say a few words today as we gather to celebrate your retirement and recognize a lifetime of service to the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, our community, and the citizens of the state of Florida. You have served with distinction, pride, and honor. Through your leadership, your devotion to community, and a concern for the well-being of its citizens, you made the Manatee County Sheriff's Office a greater place, and you made Manatee County a safer place. You demonstrated a love for duty and service. Your passion for law enforcement was equally matched by the love you demonstrated for Manatee County and all that live and work here. You showed a special interest and were a pioneer in your efforts to protect our most vulnerable, our infants and children. You quickly became recognized as an expert in child abuse and child neglect investigations. Through your work, child abuse and child neglect investigations were improved, enhancing successful prosecutions. You also served to advocate for the well-being of our children before harm could come to them by raising awareness and educating the public about various dangers children could be exposed to, such as co-sleeping and swimming hazards, for example. Because of your efforts, children are safer. You've also worked to stop domestic violence and have championed for the safety and well-being of domestic violence victims and have been instrumental in teaching investigators about domestic abuse. Your efforts have played a significant role in reducing and protecting victims of domestic violence. I have personally witnessed your involvement with every aspect of the day-to-day operations and decisions of your organization and your involvement and oversight of the many major investigations conducted by the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Your leadership and wisdom always made a positive contribution to everything you were involved in. You will be missed. Your work will be missed. So I personally want to thank you for your service to our community. Please accept my thanks and gratitude on behalf of all of us at the State Attorney's Office. Your service has been exemplary. Thank you for everything that you did to enhance, support, and nurture our law enforcement prosecution relationship. God bless you and your family as you begin a new chapter in your life, and I wish you a happy and healthy retirement.
Connie, on behalf of the judiciary, I want to wish you a very happy retirement. Over the years, you have been a tireless advocate for children's issues and for the victims of domestic violence. Our whole community has benefited from your public service. There's a slogan that I believe applies to all law enforcement officers, and that is to protect and serve. And you personify both of those phrases, protecting and serving the public. We look forward to your continued involvement in community and social issues affecting those who are most vulnerable in our community. And thank you for all of your years of service and all of your years for dedication. And I look forward to seeing you at our high school reunion. Go Spartans.
I've had the privilege to work with Major Connie Shingledecker for the past 15 years. Connie Shingledecker is a true children's champion. Her concern about the high number of accidental infant deaths brought national attention. She was instrumental in introducing the doll reenactment in infant death investigations, and she brought a number of partners from the community to bring resources that focus on education and prevention. While working in partnership with Connie, we developed the Infant Safe Sleeping campaign and introduced Project Moses in Manatee County. These were simple bassinets with liners and safe mattresses that provided a firm and safe place to sleep for babies. We had over 100 volunteers making the liners and mattresses. At some point, women who were incarcerated began sewing the bassinet liners and assembling the mattresses. It was a true project of love that, along with the education that visiting home workers provided to parents, became an effective way to equip parents not only with the knowledge, but the necessary follow-up and support. Connie has earned a national reputation for developing training for law enforcement and community providers on infant safe sleeping. She has been continually invited to speak on the matter at national and statewide conferences. It has been an honor to work with Connie. Her passion and commitment to protecting the most vulnerable have been inspiring to me. I consider Connie a role model, a mentor, and I'm proud to be her friend. As Connie enjoys a well-deserved retirement, I know that her heart will remain with the vulnerable she has worked so hard to protect. Her legacy lives on, along with her many contributions to the community.
And now I'd like to please invite retired Captain Ed Judy to the podium. Please keep it appropriate.
Well, as most of you know, or may not know, Connie has always been a very critical and important part to the operation of professional standards. And Ed and I wanted to talk today about how that process works very briefly. So when a case or a complaint comes into professional standards, it's assigned to an investigator who follows it to its logical conclusion. At that point, they give the case to us, and the chief inspector reviews it. For many years, that was Ed Judy. Now it's myself. I was trained by Ed. We review the case and we prepare to make a recommendation to the sheriff in regards to the findings and the proposed discipline. Here's where Connie comes in. At that point, the chief inspector puts down the investigation and puts his gaze on the wall directly opposite of the desk of the chief inspector. There, centered on the wall, is a plaque with explicit instructions. And we think it's only fitting that at this point in time, the plaque be given to Connie for her to enjoy in her retirement. And that plaque simply says, "What would Major Connie do?" After reviewing the plaque, we formulate our decision and we make our recommendation to the sheriff. On a serious note, Connie, all of you have no idea how important her input and her leadership and her mentorship is to the Office of Professional Standards. We rely on her for almost each and every case to give us good, sound advice so that we can make a good recommendation to the sheriff. So thank you, Connie, very much.
I just want to add a few words. I'll be shorter than Mike Mayer. Okay. Number one, I see all the assistant state attorneys who are now muckety-mucks. They got to review all those cases that we sent through, and they had to take on the wrath of Major Shingledecker if they didn't agree with her decision. So appreciate that. And the other thing is, you got to tell a war story once in a while. Jimmy Lee, a great investigator from St. Petersburg, when we started this program where Major Shingledecker reviewed it, was the first investigator out of the box to submit his case to Major Shingledecker. She disagreed with the findings because she felt 32 more people needed to be interviewed. This is true, 32. Jimmy Lee, being the great investigator from St. Pete, where we try to move on to the next case before we finish the first one, disagreed. Jimmy was in the garage for 2 weeks. I had to negotiate a settlement because I was afraid Jimmy was going to move in with me. That's when we came up with the plaque, so that nobody would know. We're not going to disagree. And the other funny part of it was, I had, as you well know, the people that worked in there are pretty experienced. And we would pick those cases to death, saying, well, we need to do this, we need to do that. And we got the perfect case. She'd look at that thing in 2 minutes and say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And we go, why didn't we? We missed it. So we do appreciate all that. And on the last serious, well, nothing was serious, I said, but the last point, it's funny that we're talking about women in police work because now it's there. We're all policemen and policewomen and that. And it's funny, you did have to plow some ground to get it going. But I'm going to tell you one thing, Major Shingledecker. There's an old saying, a cop's cop, you're a cop's cop, okay? Good luck. Enjoy.
Mr. Charles Clapsettle, please come up.
Hello. In almost 40 years of service as the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, Major Connie Shingledecker has become the standard by which public servants are judged. Starting out as a line road deputy, Major Shingledecker quickly established a reputation as an honest, hardworking law enforcement officer who paid attention to details and to those that she served. And there are few public servants in any branch of government who have achieved as much as Connie Shingledecker or who have meant as much to the community as she has. From the beginning, she was driven by her own standards of excellence, and she was determined to be the best law enforcement officer that she could be. And that commitment to the highest personal standards has resulted in raising the professional standards of the entire Sheriff's Office. Major Shingledecker has been recognized as one of our community's most treasured leaders. And what she has done over the years of her career to save the lives of children and women at risk cannot be fully measured. But we do know this: Manatee County is a better, safer place because Connie Shingledecker was here. And throughout her career, she has asked everything of herself and ended up by giving it all. Connie, our gratitude is overflowing, and we wish you a very long and happy and well-deserved retirement.
Director Lorraine Williams, please come up.
So I stand up here today and I wonder, what can I say that hasn't already been said? What a legacy. I'm going to have to take quite a few deep breaths. What a legacy that Connie Shingledecker is going to leave behind at the Sheriff's Office, at other agencies. She's touched so many lives, individual lives. And I scratch my head. I stand here and I scratch my head and I think, how did she manage to do all of this and still maintain a personal life and a private life? Where did that time come in? Well, I'm happy to say that I was a part of that, and we were friends. I started work approximately 10 years, in fact, it wasn't approximately 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago this month at the Sheriff's Office, and it was soon after I started work there that I met Connie Shingledecker, and it wasn't long before we became fast friends. We had a lot in common, and we had some things that were not so much in common, but we had enough in common that we actually did become fast friends, and one of our passions was that of running. We're both avid runners, and it wasn't that long before she and I were doing, like, I don't know, a 5K a week at one point. We were meeting on a Saturday morning, jumping in the car, getting ready to drive somewhere to run a 5K. And I learned very quickly, don't float an idea around her, because if it's something that sounds good, it's no longer going to be an idea, right? It's going to become a reality. So one day we're chit-chatting, and I said to her, hey, I'm thinking maybe of running the Marine Corps Marathon. Well, it didn't take long before we were running the Marine Corps Marathon, right? So 26.2 miles, it's pretty grueling, and neither one of us had done a marathon before. But there we were, slogging it out 50 miles a week in the Florida heat. And we did it. We used to meet in the mornings and run Lido Beach every Sunday. That's one thing about her. She's very consistent, right? And if she said she's going to be there, Lord knows she's going to be there. So we ran, and we actually we finished. We actually made it to D.C., and she ran in memory of a brother who was a Marine. And we collected our medals together, and that was certainly a memory that I'll never forget. Jimmy Lee over there thought we were bonkers, and at one point threatened to get what do they call it, a restraining order out on me if I ever talked his wife into another marathon. Well, he never did get the restraining order, and she did run another marathon. I think it was just a year later she signed up for the same marathon in Washington, D.C., and did it all over again. Amazing. We've done quite a lot of things together, but I just wanted to give you a sliver of some of the things that I kind of hold near and dear to my heart. And another one of those accomplishments is the Special Olympics torch run. So here we are about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, and a member of the agency approached both Connie and myself and asked if we'd be interested in taking over organizing the torch run for the agency. And of course, that's been with the agency since before I was here, but they asked if we would actually organize it. And I think we probably thought all of 5 seconds, looked at each other and said, okay, where do we start, right? So again, there were other people involved, and Steve Litchow was here in the house, and he absolutely deserves a huge big shout out for what we've done with the torch run. But with the leadership of Connie Shingledecker and her being on the vanguard, we were able to take the Special Olympics torch run from 30-something people running north on 41 to the last count we had. The torch run took place approximately 3 weeks ago, and we had participation of 234 people. So huge, huge accomplishment, and I have to say I'm extremely proud to have been a part of that. So talking about floating ideas, I was sitting having lunch one day, and I just chit-chatting about nothing and everything, and I said to her at one point, hey, Connie, what's a guardian ad litem? Well, now I am one. And her answer to that was, well, rather than explain it, why don't you just do it? So the next thing I know, I'm sitting in a class. It was a 3-day class, and I was enrolled up to be a guardian ad litem, and that was over 2 years ago. So again, thank you for that. And she's been a huge beacon of light for me. She's been a friend, a really good friend, a confidant, a person I know that I can go to at work when I'm having issues, as we all do. We all know what it's like to be a manager, a supervisor, a leader, and there's times I've gone to her and I've used her as a sounding board, and she's always been there for me. She's given me some really good advice, and she has helped me to recalibrate my compass when I've lost my true north, and she's I'm going to miss her. So thank you for that. I was wondering what I was going to say up here because it had already all been said, but I was kind of sitting around about a week ago, and I thought, I wonder how many times she and I have actually gone to lunch together. And I was just talking to Chuck Haig. We were just laughing about that, Chuck and myself. And on a very conservative note, really conservative, we've probably had over 2,000 lunches together. That's conservative. And I would say 1,998 of those have been over at the Riverside Cafe, where everybody knows our name. And we don't get menus anymore. They know our name, they know our husbands' names, and they know our firstborns. And they know how we take our iced tea and how we take our salads. But you think of having 2,000 lunches with somebody, something's got to rub off, right? You don't have 2,000 lunches with anybody and something's got to rub off. So I stand up here and genuinely say I'm really I'm privileged to have had that time with you, and I think a lot of it has rubbed off, and maybe even a little bit of me rubbed off on you, So there's other things that we've done together, but I think one of our biggest accomplishments ever, and I think Jimmy Lee can attest to this, and that's our love for shopping, right? So we never complain when we're shopping. Our feet never hurt. We never spend too much money. The weather's always good, and we both love to shop. And when the mall came to town, we celebrated, and I think we're still celebrating. And that may have been another time when Jimmy Lee threatened a restraining order on me, but he hasn't done that yet. So, Connie, I just want to say that a huge big hole is going to be left where we had lunch every day. And I'm hoping I know our lunches will turn into dinners. And I know our shopping Jimmy Lee, will continue to go on. And there's a lot of paths out there that are yours that haven't been treading on yet, and they're yours to forge. And I know you'll do an excellent job. And thanks for touching my life. I love you.
Now we'll have another look at a few more testimonials.
Congratulations, Connie, on your retirement from an exceptional career. I enjoyed working with you through the years and appreciate your work to better the cooperation and communication between our agencies. We worked on many serious cases and investigation. We also served various councils and committees trying to solve the problems in law enforcement. But the one thing that I enjoyed the most was when you would bring investigations over for us to review. Those times were the most memorable because you would also bring the case investigator, who for many years was Jim, and we would spend most of the time talking college sports and insulting each other's favorite team. Thank you for all that you've done in our efforts to seek justice. I wish you the best in retirement. Hope you and Jim enjoy many years relaxing and doing whatever it is you want to do, because that is what retirement is all about.
Hi, I'm Ed Nicholas. It is an honor and a privilege for me to congratulate Major Connie Shingledecker on her distinguished career and wish her a long and happy retirement. I've known Connie for nearly 30 years. I've followed her journey through the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, from her start in dispatch to her days on the road, from her years investigating child sexual battery cases to, of course, her long career as a supervisor. She is and always has been an incredible asset in our community, the quintessential professional. Over her long career, there certainly were challenging times, like that terrible day her daughter was struck by the fleeing felon. Thank God she was okay. There were big cases, Sherry Brandon and her daughters, Lucas C. Ambrone, with her calm, steady hand leading the investigations all the way to conviction. But there were also so many cases outside of the public eye, times where she would personally sit with the mother of a murder victim to comfort her, times where she would hold a small, scared child whose parent was being arrested for domestic battery, times when she would take extra time with that new patrol recruit to explain not only how something is done, but why. Through it all, her calm demeanor, her insistence on the highest of ethics, and her ability to lead by example has been exemplary. Few know that, even with one of the most time-consuming and challenging jobs in Manatee County, she served as president of the Bradenton Kiwanis Club. Not an easy task, take it from me. So, Connie, although I still think you are much too young to retire, you have definitely earned your time off. We'll call it time off for good behavior. I'm eager to see what the next chapter holds for you, my friend. Congratulations. I wish you the best.
Now I'd like to welcome Captain Todd Shear.
Good afternoon, Major. I first began by working for Major Shingledecker when I was a detective in what was formerly known as the Delta Division. It's now called the Special Investigations Division. I worked for her for about 2 years, didn't have that much interaction with you at the time. Eventually got promoted, went back to the patrol division as a sergeant. After about 2 years on the midnight shift and banging my head on the dashboard because it was killing me, I decided to put in for the sergeant position in the investigative bureau. I was fortunate enough to be selected to replace Ed Norris as sergeant in crimes against children. And after a few days of training, I was pretty much on my own. So I can remember the first week being there, having a phone conversation with you, Major. I really hadn't had much experience in crimes against children, even on the road as a sergeant, and we were talking about a sex abuse case. And I remember I had explained to you what had happened. And as you know, we have a lot of, I consider them uncomfortable conversations about what occurs sometimes. And I can remember turning so red and being embarrassed, like I'm talking to my major about these issues, and wanted to climb underneath the desk. And she had made a good conversation, and she mentioned things like CPT, SCC, AP. I'm like, I have no idea what she just said. But fortunately, I had some good detectives and yourself, Major, who brought me along over the years, and you were very, very patient with me, and I greatly appreciate that. And Major, I was blessed to be able to see the fruit of the work that you had done in my 11 years of being back there. And I'm just going to go over like 3 of them. Some of them have already been mentioned here today that really stick out to me. And first was, as everybody pretty much knows here, we at the Sheriff's Office took over child protection investigations in 1999. And you were the architect of that. And the Child Protection Section was just the cornerstone to what is now the Child Protection Investigations Division, where we have the Crimes Against Children, Domestic Violence, Sex Offender Unit, and now recently the SRO unit's been added. So you've got about 100 people over there. But it was hugely beneficial to me as the supervisor back there to watch your vision, and how beneficial it was, not just to me as a supervisor, but to the victims. Because when you put everybody underneath the same roof, you had the cooperation between the sex offender unit and the child protective investigators and the crimes against children unit. It was an amazing thing to see these people working together. And just to give you one example is the crimes against children detectives are focusing on the criminal element. The child protective investigators are focusing on the dependency issues. And when sometimes a detective couldn't get probable cause to make an arrest, it's a very, very frustrating thing, very frustrating. And we were having detectives actually initiate having staffings. They felt so frustrated, and it's something it's unheard of. You don't get that anywhere else in the state. And then you also had the child protective investigators team. They knew they had mandatory statutory requirements to get things done in a certain time period. But they worked so good and so well with the Crimes Against Children section that we could get control calls done. We could get the evidence we needed within that first 24 hours, as opposed to other areas where CPS investigators might just go down there, stay in their lane. They want to get their cases done, but that doesn't happen here. And that's because of your vision and you setting up the Child Protection Investigations Division. Safe sleep. I can remember the first day coming back there and you educating me on safe sleep and how infants, we saw a great number of unnecessary infants dying due to the placement of children on couches, adult beds, cribs filled with blankets, bumper pads, stuffed animals. And we talked about how many cases we went out on over the years. And those are difficult cases to go out on. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you being the soundboard for me to talk about those cases and your leadership. You taught many classes in regarding safe sleep. You educated CPIs, detectives, medical professionals, many others. But you didn't just stop there. You found an organization within our community and partnered with them so that when we went to residences and we discovered that an infant did not have a crib, that we could provide them with a play yard and that would give those parents a safe place to put kids. And not only did we do that, when we went on cases where there was reported neglect and abuse, and it had nothing to do with co-sleeping, and we discovered that there was an infant in the house, we still gave them safe sleep literature and education, even if they had a crib. Not only is that mandatory policy here at the Sheriff's Office, other agencies soon followed. As you know, Department of Children and Families adopted your idea. You should have patented it. But again, just another example of an idea that you brought forward and envisioned. And it's funny because 2 Thursdays ago, my wife and I are in Sarasota at the Sarasota Y, and we're taking a class. And the block of instruction is going to be on safe sleep. So the instructor looks at me and she goes, "Hey, you work for the sheriff's office?" Like, "Yes." She goes, "Well, I'm gonna teach on safe sleep, and there's this major at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. She's really good at this. She helped educate our department. She helped. Matter of fact, I'm going to use her PowerPoint." I said, "Is it Major Shingledecker?" She goes, "Yeah. Do you know her?" I said, "I've heard of her." I just kept it on the inside. But as everybody else said, your impact continues to go in areas that you have no idea. And then another incident that comes to mind was in late 2012 and early 2013. We started seeing an increase in abuse and neglect and even death in cases that involved caregivers using methadone. It's a common denominator in these cases, methadone. So we discovered parents were being drug tested. They weren't just being tested for methadone, testing positive, that is. We found a lot of other narcotics in their system, and that was jeopardizing the safety of infants. Had a few cases where the mixture of methadone and other narcotics were the main contributing factors to these child's deaths. Major with vision and passion. You had several meetings with key stakeholders in that whole system there with the clinics. Created policy, you helped monitor those obtaining methadone more closely. The policy was so effective that a major news organization reached out to you to report on the success that our policy was having. That policy was created in April 2013. According to my good friend, Melissa Lanxerx, we're happy to report that there have been 0 co-sleeping deaths where there has been methadone as a contributing factor. So that's a great thing, Major. Lou said it earlier. You've told me many times, Major, you never know the lives we have saved as a result of the work we've done. This is true for a lot of us, but I've gotten a firsthand glimpse through my years in working in child protection and seeing positive outcomes due to your policies. Lives have been changed and many saved because of your vision, passion, and work. So, Major, what I want to tell you on behalf of those children, that you've never met, that you've never seen, on behalf of those families, you've helped to fix and change. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And on behalf of those employees that you help train, impart, share, educate, and mentor. The 2,000 phone calls I had with you regarding everything related to child abuse. The stories you shared about your family, about Jimmy Lee going outside in his whitey-tighty underwears to keep some boys from smoking cigarettes outside the house with your daughter. I appreciate those stories. Major, everybody here can see the fruit of the work you've done. You truly are a great example of somebody living for a purpose greater than themselves and helping others. It's been an honor to serve with you, Major. I wish you the best in retirement.
Now I'd like to welcome the Honorable Ed Nichols.
Good afternoon. That's a tough act to follow. Can I see a show of hands of all the people here who think Connie's too young to retire? Even Jim. Even Jim. You know, I could probably sign an order preventing her from being able to do so. I like you too much to do that, Connie. It is my privilege to be here this afternoon. I've known Connie a long time. She's a dear, dear friend. I will take a moment to tell you about that awful day where her two passions came together, her love of family and her love of law enforcement. She was in her car going north with her daughter in a car going home, and there was a fleeing felon a couple of miles behind her, and she said, I may have to get involved in this. Run to the Circle K. And I'll come back and get you in a little bit as soon as this thing settles down. Well, it's just as about that happens, the guy in his car takes off on the grass next to the roadway, and her daughter is hit in front of Connie, flies over the windshield. It was obviously a awful moment. Obviously, your daughter is fine. The fleeing felon, not so much. Fortunately, Connie wasn't the one who apprehended him that day. But I got to know Connie well. I'd known her a long time. I got to know Connie well when I was handling that case. It's been a challenging career. She's seen a lot over the last many years. She's the quintessential professional. We are all better because we know Connie. Better police officers, better prosecutors, better judges, better people. So I wish her the best. It's a loss to our community. Best of luck.
And lastly, I'd like to bring up Sheriff Brad Stubbe. Do you want me to move this down? Don't touch the microphone.
I got this now. So first, Connie, on behalf of the current Citizens Academy, since you dished me last night at supper for the sheriff and didn't show up, I know why. I present these to you on behalf of the Citizens Academy, and a couple of those folks are here. Carrie, I cannot tell you how pleased I was to know that you were in charge here today. Because had Jimmy been left in charge, it would have cost each of us $35 at the door. We'd have had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and tap water. Now, Jimmy's been retired from, 4 or 5 different agencies. The guy's a wealthy guy, and he also told me when I walked in, Connie, we've got to be out of here by 1 or I've got to pay again. So I wanted to show everybody this. You've seen this already, right? Okay. I knew that Connie was a queen way back when we both started. But I had forgotten about that. And then this photograph showed up yesterday in a little reception that we had for her. And Jimmy kept telling me she was a queen. She was the tomato queen. No, she wasn't the strawberry queen. I said, no, Jimmy, she's the queen in Venice. It's right there on the photograph. All right, Connie. She started in August 1977. You've heard most of this already. And I started in February of 1978. Our paths kind of took different directions. And as most of you have heard, she started in the child investigations. And I know most of you'd find it hard to believe I used to have long hair and a beard, and my path went down narcotics. We both came together, really, in 1993 when we were both promoted to captain at the same time. And when I was working narcotics before that promotion, our office was across the street from the old courthouse. I think there's another small office over there now. Lipinski used to be there, somebody else. But I can remember Connie, when she was pregnant with Carrie, sitting on the steps of the old courthouse eating lunch. And we were across the street, and we used to wave at each other, but that's how we first interacted. But then we got thrown together after a couple of promotions, and we actually ended up doing a criminal investigation on our narcotics unit, which was named the Delta Division. And this thing started to snowball, and Connie and I basically did that investigation. And it was during that investigation that we had some very heated discussion about our own employees. And I have to tell you that one of the most difficult things that I believe each of us have ever done in our lives was to investigate our own people. And this was something that was not just our employees using drugs. This was our employees stealing money from people, stealing drugs from people. One of our employees actually torched his own private vehicle for insurance money, which then made it a federal case. And the bottom line here is we ended up arresting 6 of our own employees. And I can remember actually going to the house of one of our employees and putting the handcuffs on that person. And a number of them did time in federal prison for that. And that kind of thrust us together at that point in time. You've already heard that Connie worked in records, communications. She was actually one of the first law enforcement officers down at our airport. We usually have the law enforcement assignment down there, patrol, criminal investigations, but there are a couple that haven't been mentioned. She worked as a person in our honor guard, and obviously when she puts on a uniform, you've seen some of the photographs, she looks good in uniform, and that's what we want our honor guard to look like when they represent the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, because our honor guard not only represents us here, they go all over the state for funerals of other deputies and police officers that have been killed in the line of duty. She also took over for me on the Family Assistance Committee, and this is a committee that is just so important to the agency. When someone in our agency passes away, this committee goes to that particular employee and their husband or wife or daughter or son, and we sit, we talk, we find out what they need from us, and then what we as an agency can do for them. She has been a part of that for a number of years. There's another thing that hasn't been mentioned, the WEO, the Work Environment Officer. You know, our employees all the time feel pressure from different areas, whether it's from supervision or other employees. And Connie and others, but mostly Connie for probably the last 15 years, has been that WEO, where people in our agency can go to her and say, look, here's the problems that I'm having. What should I do? And she's had those answers. A lot of things that have been talked about today, we've missed just a few. I just want you to know that she's either been a board member or participated in, facilitated meetings for Junior Leadership Manatee, Leadership Manatee, Junior League of Women, Florida Women in Government, Kiwanis was mentioned by the judge, Manatee Children's Services, Hope Family Services, Easter Seals. I could go on and on. My list, by the way, is I got about 10 more. But here's one that I thought that was so important that somebody missed, the Department of Children and Families. And if those of you in this room know it, there's nobody really else in this room that could have been more qualified to be the person in charge of the Department of Children and Families. And over the years, as that head position opened up in Tallahassee, I had gone to Connie and I said, you really should consider being in charge of this. And we had some discussions about it. And the last time that this happened, I was actually sheriff, and I had the opportunity to lobby some people in Tallahassee, and even the governor and the governor's office, to give her a telephone call just to gauge her interest in it. Because in my opinion, as you've heard here today, there's nobody else in the state of Florida that could have done a great job with that agency. And you know what? They didn't even call her. I was so disappointed when they made their announcement of who they chose and didn't even call her. They missed out. They really missed out. And Carrie, I was trying to get her closer to you. She and Jimmy Lee could be in Tallahassee, right? A little bit closer to you guys, back home where, yeah, I get you. It was mentioned today about the law enforcement torch run. I was actually the one that organized that under Sheriff Charlie Wells when we first started that back in 1985, 1986, somewhere in there. And you think that the run is long today, and Connie was part of that run way back when. We started at the airport on a morning and ran all the way to the hospital. We finished, and then the next night we would run from the hospital all the way to the Skyway Bridge. And then, way back then, we didn't have extra vehicles, so when we finished, the few runners that we had, we all piled in the back of a marked patrol car that had a cage in it. There was like 6 of us sitting back there to get our ride back, and I remember that vividly as well, don't you? And then the Law Enforcement Olympics. Nobody really has mentioned that. The photograph showed a little bit of it. Jimmy Lee and I played softball together for a number of years with the sheriff and Rick and a number of other of you in this room. But Connie played volleyball, and what was interesting is that at night when the games were kind of over and things were kind of settled down, we all always used to sit and congregate in somebody's room and just sit around and talk and maybe drink a cold one, right, Jimmy Lee? But we had a great time there as well. So, you know, you've been, the video here is just amazing. But you've been a constant voice, as everybody has said, for the children, not only in our community, but the state. And you've been a good friend, brother and sister. Man, we have fought, haven't we? But as I said on the video, even after those heated discussions about whatever the issue was, we always went away knowing that we considered each other good friends and that we respected what went on both in our lives. And our kids, Carrie, I mean, we've since you were a baby, since she was carrying you, and my kids, and Jimmy Lee, when I was at the FBI Academy, we had a problem. Now my wife's crying. Now I've looked at you, so so I'll probably start. But anyway, we had a problem at my house, and I was at the FBI Academy, so Debbie calls Jimmy, and Jimmy rushes over to the house because they were living in Mill Creek at the time where we've lived. And Jimmy gets over there, and he's got his gun out, and he's searching for somebody. And my youngest, Grant, who's now a deputy, he goes outside not knowing that Jimmy's there and ends up tackling Jimmy in the front yard. But our families have been intertwined all of these years, and it's been nothing but good. So I wish you good health, all of you, good health in your retirement. Go up there. Is it Virginia? West Virginia, wherever you've got that piece of property, go up there and just have a great time, and we'll see you when you come back and spend some time together, maybe tip a cold one. We're gonna look at another video. We love you, Connie Lee Shingledecker. You too, Jimmy, and you too, Carrie. And I was just going to introduce Connie Lee, but you already know she's here.
Charles, you weren't supposed to make me cry. It was very beautiful, and I can't thank you enough for that. Oh, my gosh, everything that everyone has said today, and the fact that you are all here is, well, I just thank you for coming. I'm going to call this my career celebration, since I am not going to call it retirement. I still need to get April, even with April and Carrie, and Brandy, and Caroline, and all of them women at that table there. They're, before I go. Okay. And Carrie, I've heard it said that life's journey, it's not actually the destination, but the people that we meet and the stops we make along the way that are what we cherish and remember. I could never have envisioned the moment when I came to the sheriff's office, working for Sheriff Thomas Burton in July of 1977, almost 39 years ago, of where I would be. I had a vision, a dream, really, of just being a detective one day. And it would take so many years to reach that goal since there were limited opportunities for women at that time. And Carol Bird, who came before me, is one of those women, and I'm so very proud to be around her today, back in the sex offender unit. But after graduating from the Nighttime Academy at the Manatee Technical Institute in '79, I did put in my transfer request to patrol. Sandy Alderton and Donna, then Mayor Cumby Black, she married a few times, they were working in plain clothes, but Yana Valdez, who's not here with us today, Denoline Blades, Nancy Rogers, and I all wanted to do what women really were not doing at the sheriff's office at that time. That was to be patrol deputies. But it wasn't easy, but we did prevail. And I remember when I finally got the call to meet with Sheriff Burton, and I was being told, you're going to be put on the road, we're going to put you out there, but we're not going to pay you the same as the male deputies because you're not supporting a family. I said, okay, because I would have done it for nothing. That's how much I loved being a deputy. I said, okay, and that began my career as a certified law enforcement officer. Now I want you to picture for a moment what policing was like back in that time period. We had no cell phones, folks, Carrie, we had no cell phones. We had no tasers, no OC spray, no training in verbal judo, no GPS. They gave us a revolver, 2 speed loaders, a nightstick, an aluminum flashlight, a portable radio if there were enough to go around, a county map, a ticket book, and a car that had been Whalenized. For those of you that do not know what that means, I'm going to tell you. Don Whalen was bigger than Bruce. And he wasn't in as good a shape as Bruce is in either, but he was bigger than Bruce. And when he got into a car, he made sure that seat was all the way back. And he literally broke the seats in many a car to where you could not move it forward. Now, I'm 5'4", folks. And this guy was like 6'5" and weighed a couple 300 pounds, but so I would get one of his cars, and I think they did that on purpose. But I prevailed there, too. I had a large phone book that I would bring and a doubled-over seat cushion, and that way I could see over the steering wheel. I handled most of my calls without backup during that time. It was, if there was one call, you got one deputy, and we had a lieutenant that made sure that people didn't go outside of their zones. But I loved every minute of it. I loved what I was doing and being a part of a squad, and after a year, I was happy to get a better car. So in December of 1985, a sergeant named Stephen Litschauer, where are you, Steve? Okay, he's back there. He's still working, folks. It's amazing. He would change my life forever and put me on the path that most of you know me for today. He asked me, would you come to work for me in the juvenile division? And I thought, ooh, I don't know. I mean, I'm having so much fun out here on patrol. I'm a corporal, and then as a corporal, you got treated like crap. Thank you, Sheriff Wells, for that. Because you were somewhere in between a deputy and a sergeant, and nobody paid any attention to you. And then the guys didn't love you anymore. You weren't one of them, and then you weren't good enough. So I was like, okay, maybe I will take that, that shot and move up into the juvenile division. And I said, but if I don't like it, can I go back? He said, oh yeah, you can go back. Sharon Baldwin had left, and so I took her place. Within the first 2 months in that unit, I would investigate a capital sexual battery case involving an 8-year-old boy and his 78-year-old teacher, who was a pedophile but had never been caught. And I would get a confession. I just wouldn't give up on him, but I got a confession, and he went to jail. And a 3-month-old infant with third-degree burns and multiple rib fractures that to this day is still one of the worst cases that I've ever seen. And that was it. I knew that I was where I was meant to be. I saw the dedicated efforts of many talented attorneys during those years, some that prosecuted cat crimes that we investigated and some that defended them, many of which have gone on to become judges that are here today. And it was truly an honor to have worked with every single one of you. And if I made your life miserable when I would call and complain when you were going to decline one of my cases, well, I challenged you, and I think many of you rose to that challenge. Sometimes I won, sometimes I didn't, but I wouldn't give up on those cases when I really, truly believed in them. I would say that the Sheriff's Office has had the good fortune to work closely with the State Attorney's Office under both State Attorney Earl Moreland, who you saw on the video, and Ed Brodsky, who you saw on the video. And over the years, I have had the opportunity to work closely with many SAO chief assistants like Dino Economo, who's now a judge, Dennis Nollis, who you saw on the video, Ed Brodsky himself, and Lon Arend. You allowed people like Brian Eiten, Bruce Lee, Art Brown, Heather Doyle, who is with us today, Dawn Buff, Cynthia Evers, and Lisa Chitterow, and many others to specialize and work closely with the Sheriff's Office. And I do have to tell one story on Earl. Earl, are you still here? Yes, you are. So when Earl first took office, I don't remember the exact year, but I think I'd been in crimes against children or the juvenile unit for probably a couple of years, and I knew the importance of specialization in getting successful prosecutions. But Earl ran on a platform of making sure that they would diversify cases and that all assistant state attorneys would get a shot at these cases. And so when he took over, I'm a lowly sergeant, went to my captain, Gary Wells at the time, and I said, I got to go see that guy. I mean, he's gonna take away specialization, and I said, I just don't think that's gonna work, and I got to go talk to this guy. And he said, okay, you can go talk to him. And I think you were prepared for me coming. You gave me a very lovely opportunity to introduce myself and say who I was, and that was about it. Because you quickly told me, look, this is my platform, this is what I ran on, this is what I'm going to do. And I just said, yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to come and introduce myself. But I will tell you this, a year later, we would be at a function, I don't remember what it was, but you were man enough to come up to me to say, you were right, and I'm going to go back to specialization in that area. We need it. And because of your efforts, we had so many successful prosecutions after that. And I do appreciate from the bottom of my heart what you did. It meant a lot to me that you would come up and tell me that as well. It meant a lot to me. So working in crimes against children led me to be involved in the investigation and supervision of many physical and sexual child abuse cases over the years, as well as giving me a deeper understanding of the effects of domestic violence on children that were witnessed in the home. And I feel sorry for Chuck Hagman because he was in an office next to me when I was recording this. I have this recording, many of you have heard it, of a 6-year-old girl who is witnessing domestic violence in the home. And it is just, it's just heart-wrenching. And she is sobbing, and she is so emotional, and she's calling 911, and she's trying to get people to come and help. And I'm trying to put this in a different format, and I'm playing it over and over and over again. He finally comes over and he says, what in the heck are you listening to? I can't take it anymore. Would you just stop? So, but it really helped me to understand and led me to be more involved with Hope Services and Laurel Lynch, to participate in educational domestic violence film back in the late 80s, which was directed by none other than Judge Duran Adams. He had such a passion for domestic violence, and it helped improve those investigations. And today, you fast forward, and Heather Doyle and I have partnered over the last several years in a joint training effort that would improve the quality of domestic violence investigations by patrol officers, and it's just made a huge difference. And that work that we're doing together, I know it's making a big difference, and I can't thank you enough. So Laurel Lynch, she's the CEO of Hope Family Services. Heather Doyle is an assistant state attorney in charge of the misdemeanor division, and they are amazing women. They are smart, they are witty, they are dedicated to helping all victims of domestic violence in our community, and it's been such a pleasure to have collaborated with them. My specialization in CAC led me to be appointed to the State Child Death Review Team from 2001 to 2013. That's a lot of stuff to take on. I don't know if you've ever realized we have to read all of these cases from all over the state of Florida. I would work with Michelle Akins, who's sitting here today. She was unbelievable. She kept us all going in the right direction. Dr. Michael Haney and Special Agent Terry Thomas, Dr. Barbara Wolf, and many other experts from varied backgrounds. Being on that state team and our own Manatee County Child Death Review Team led me to be involved in awareness and training on infant deaths related to unsafe sleep. I don't know if Dr. Vega made it to the luncheon, but oh, I bless you for coming. Thank you for being here. One day I got a phone call from a reporter that said, I think we've got some teen suicide issues going on in Manatee County. And I said, well, I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I'm going to get with Dr. Vega and I'm going to find out. You gave me 5 years worth of data, 2000 to 2004 inclusive. And I would look at that and I would come to a realization in the early part of 2005, that we had the leading cause of child death in Manatee County for that time period was infant death, suffocation due to unsafe sleep. It was amazing to me, and so it gave me that opportunity to build an awareness and to help educate the public. And I know you've heard a lot of people. Todd Shear, you are giving me kudos, but brother, you were out there on the front line and you were videoing and you were making it happen. You took what was my vision and you really implemented it. And I owe you so much for doing that, because you kept it going. And I know Kathy Esterbrook, if she's here, she will continue with that, I'm sure. So then we fast forward to Dr. Vega's assistants and Luz Cuquera, who you heard talk today with Healthy Start, and Katie Powers. Katie Powers, she's a hero, really. She was at Boston Marathon when the bombing took place. She's a nurse that works in the tent. And that day, when you were expecting runners to come in that have other running issues, and to be dealing with just the horrible, tragic circumstances that you had that day, it's absolutely, she texted me after that and called me, and we talked, and it just, my heart went out to what you were going through that day. But I was told that if you were going to make a difference in dealing with these infants and the co-sleeping, you had to go through Katie Powers. So I was like, oh, I got to meet this woman. I got to make a believer out of her. And we did. Together, we all understood how important it was. And Charles Clapsaddle, I cannot thank you enough, because you've been here in this community, and on every issue that we are talking about, he's out there everywhere. A day, night, you name it, he's videoing. I don't think this guy ever, or his crew, ever takes a day off, and they're involved in every issue. I would get phone calls from him saying, we need to do something. We need to put a panel together. We need to talk about this. We need to get this out there. And you would make it happen. And I can't thank you enough for the putting together those public awareness pieces that we did on unsafe sleep and drowning. So it was huge. So my kudos and my thanks to all of my folks. We still have much to do to educate and promote prevention efforts related to child death in our community, and I do look forward to our continued efforts. As many of you know, physical fitness has been a big part of my life. I promote exercise and healthy eating to anyone who will listen. I've talked to all of you, I'm sure. What are you eating? What is that? Should you be eating that? That's high glycemic. You're going to be sleeping before it's, Sheriff, you're going to be sleeping before it's over, Colonel. So So again, I was in 1986, Mark Rominger, that's a name from the past, and I started the Manatee County Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Olympic Team, and we would encourage other LEOs to participate. My husband had been involved in those games for years, and we would go as a family, and now we had the opportunity under Sheriff Wells to get involvement. So my first segue into that, the Police Olympics, was powerlifting. And I have to tell a little story. So I'm powerlifting in the future with John Morrell, Johnny Jones, Greg Jenkins, and Sheriff Wells, Doug Betts, Bruce Meade, and I called y'all the bench hogs because they would come and bench. They didn't do the deadlift and the squat like the rest of us, but they would come and bench. But I remember Johnny Jones, I mean, these guys are crazy. To get ready to do a lift, they would start hitting each other, smacking each other. And so you can see where this is going, right? So I'm getting ready to lift, and Johnny Jones comes up to me, Major, do you want me to hit you? And I'm looking at Johnny, and I'm thinking, no, don't touch me. I'll manage this all on my own. I didn't want to be smacked around by those guys. Okay, so that was great. I now enjoy running, yoga, weightlifting to stay in shape, and I look forward to dedicating more time to my physical training. The retirement of so many of us now and over the next year will open promotional opportunities that are unprecedented in the history of the Sheriff's Office. Many of you are the actual future leaders of the agency. Be passionate about what you do. Have a positive attitude. Work hard. Set achievable goals, but most of all, make sure that you have balance in your life. You have to have balance. Make time for your faith, your family, your work, and yourself. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to make it through. To the female deputies, and I'm looking at some of them right now, detectives and supervisors here today, there are still many firsts to be completed. Each of you has already accomplished so much and has a special place in my heart. Some of you, and you know who you are, need to stay the course. Stay focused on your goals. I look forward to celebrating your ongoing achievements and your future successes. To those in CAC and CPS, you have one of the toughest jobs in the Sheriff's Office. The work you do every day is making a difference in the lives of children and families in our county. I am so proud of your dedication, your compassion, and professionalism with which you do your job with our most challenging families. Management team members that are here today, we have been given an awesome responsibility as a leadership of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. And I am really proud to have served with each of you on that team for the last 20 plus years. And we'll miss the bantering and the camaraderie. So have fun at the parade this year, because I'm not going to be there. I'm surprised that Ed Judy didn't tell that story about Mike Mayer not letting the darn bus come across and that lady having to put it, she couldn't go in reverse. So it was like a nightmare. And I'm just shocked that you didn't tell that story. Okay, so I've had, and who was it that told, oh, Judge Malucci, you really shocked me there. I mean, I'm so glad you told that story, because I was thinking, how could I get that story in about how I tried to breastfeed my daughter without everybody in the room feeling really uncomfortable? So I am going to tell one story about that, Carrie. I did so much trying to be the best mom, you just would not believe the pain and suffering. So I come back to my squad after being home with you for 3 months. It was wonderful, but I had to go back to work. And I told my sergeant, Sarge, well, there's somebody in the back that just touched my heart. Thank you, Maxie, for being here. So anyway, I told my Sarge, Sarge, I'm breastfeeding. So I probably will need to have some quiet time because patrol cars are, have windows and everything, and people can see in. So I'll probably be in the squad room if the door's locked. That's probably, I'm pumping my breasts. So he's like, I'm not thinking he's cool with it. It's good. I mean, I don't have to worry, right? So then we go into the squad meeting, and he makes the announcement to the whole frickin' squad. If the door is locked, that's because Connie's in there pumping her breasts. And I'm like, really? You had to say that. So all the guys in my squad are looking down like this, or trying, I don't know where to look, I don't know what to say. So I stood up and I said, it's okay. If any of you need a little cream in your coffee, just let me know. That's how I dealt with some of the stuff that went on out there, you know. You had to have a comeback. I've had some really great support from the agency administrative assistants over the years. And I want to let Patsy Siver, Janet Loker, Charla Eberly, Linnell Hauser, Mary Yon, Tidy Prentice-Pico, who's taking all these great pictures today, and Cynthia Truwell know how much I've appreciated your hard work and friendship. To my captains and my lieutenants, Captain Kathy Esterbrook, Captain Todd Shear, Major Bill Jordan, Lieutenant Tony Williams, Darren Bankert, Eric Isola, and a newly promoted Captain Pat Casella. You are responsible for keeping your divisions and sections running smoothly every single day. You responded to scenes, you've worked special operations with your people, you've successfully coordinated the creation of a countywide homicide unit and made sure that your people had the resources that they needed to do their jobs. You made us, you made me look good, and I am so thankful to have had you all on my team and will truly miss you. Tom Salisbury, I know you're here somewhere. He's the CFO that always had a way to find a few dollars or more when we really needed them. And it's so appropriate that B.G. Dixon is sitting right next to you. I agree, because I heard he made that comment about, well, that's coming out of Shing's budget on that large, wherever that thing went that's got my picture from Miss Venice on it. Holy crap. But I'm glad, Tom, that you're retiring and you'll be able to spend more time with your better half, Terry, and we'll have to plan that cruise to Alaska. To my lunch buddies, Lorraine and Michelle, thanks for the CrossFit killer classes. Lorraine, thanks for talking me into running the Marine Corps Marathon. And all those great lunch discussions, and you really did rub off on me. I mean, I'm so much more liberal than I ever was before. You're going to have to find somebody else to drive you to lunch, though, you know. You don't really want Lorraine driving, so, so I'm sure it'll be Michelle's job. Sergeant David Haynes, are you here somewhere? Oh, hallelujah. That's my brother. We began our careers at the same time, and you were just like the most annoying brother anyone could ever have. Thanks for always being supportive and someone that I could always be myself around. Mike Mayer, thank you for your support and for not letting me transfer to the jail when I didn't have enough CAC detectives. And I'll tell you, I have to tell that story. I know it's probably going on and you're going, is this ever going to end? But I was a sergeant. I had 2 CAC detectives. And because we were good at what we did, people were coming out of the woodwork. I was just telling Carol this story earlier today. They would call and say, I've heard about you, I've heard about you, and I want to come in and tell you what happened to me. And they were coming out of the woodwork. We did not have, I worked a full load, just a caseload, just like the detectives, because I couldn't give them cases and sit back and say, hey, I'm supervising 2 people. So I was a true working sergeant. And I went to Captain Mayer and I said, we need some more people. And he looked at me, where are you, Mike? Where are you? I need to be looking at you when I say this, as I'm probably going to cry. So I'm sure he didn't think I was serious. And I said, I need some more detectives. My people are suffering. I cannot come into work and watch them suffer one more day. And he said, all right, well, then I'll transfer you to the jail. And I said, bring me the transfer form. I am going to sign it, and I want to go today. I don't want to wait. I'm going now. And he said, you're really serious. I said, yes, I am serious. And he said, hold on. And he called upstairs, and Chief Hombacher would ask me to come up because Colonel Dennison was gone at the time, or whatever title he had. And he was not very happy about this when this happened. But I went up to see Chief Hombacher, and we had a conversation, and I said, if you think it's because I'm a woman and that I'm not capable, then put a man in here, if that's what you think the issue is. And I had tears coming down my face when I said that. So I got 2 more people. It was unheard of. It was unheard of, I'm telling you. And that made a huge difference. And we went on to do some unbelievable cases like the Pat Powers case that would be enormous, and so many others. So unbelievable. Ed Judy and his wife were a huge support to Jim, Carrie, and I, especially right after we moved into Manatee County in 1997. He presided over our daughter's wedding and kept telling everyone that he was marrying Carrie and that we were going to be his mother and father-in-law. That there would finally be an athlete in the family. Colonel Wells, you have come a long way from the deputy serving warrants at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office when your father was elected sheriff. Now, there's another story that you don't know. I was a corporal, and the sheriff, corporals back then were the training officers, and they put Ricky with me. And I remember thinking, has he lost his mind? What was he thinking? And then I also thought, every little screw-up that I do, the sheriff's going to know about it, because he's going to go home and tell him about it. So, but I came to realize that you trusted me to train your son and to care for him and to make sure that nothing happened to him. And I felt privileged and honored to have done that. And Ricky, I apologize for those times when I would go, can you go a little faster? Can you go a little faster? I mean, there is a deputy that needs our help. We are backing him up. Can you go a little faster? I know Drummond.
It was more like this. I'll always remember your advice.
Yeah, but we had some good times together. Sheriff Wells, I'm so glad that you came today, and I want to thank you for believing in me, giving me the opportunity to go as far as I did with the agency. You appreciated hard work and innovative ideas and were never threatened by any of your employees' accomplishments. You were a man's man. And I want to thank you for letting this girl into the boys' club. It was a privilege to have served under your command. It really was. Sheriff Stubbe, where are you? There you are, right in front of me. We worked together for so many years. We were more like brothers and sisters, and thank you for leading this agency through some really tough financial times. When that housing bubble burst, I mean, first we were doing wonderful, and then that thing happened, and you were definitely the right man for those lean and difficult years that you had to help us get through, and I am really going to miss you, brother. To my family, I would like to thank my father, Mickey Keys, for his 28 years of military service that included 3 tours in Vietnam and receiving a Purple Heart, for his love and support throughout my career and being a truly wonderful grandfather to Carrie. My stepmother, Ann Keys, for the loving care that you give my dad every day and for being such a wonderful grandmother to Carrie. Thank you. My father-in-law, Dwight, for his years of military service and for his years of service to the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and his wife, Joey, who was unable to be here today. You were both there for us and for Carrie, my stepdaughter, Jessica, and her wife, Amy, for their years of military service and their love and support. And we're changing euchre partners the next time we play. Okay? Our son-in-law, Tom. Whoa, you gotta get busy, Tom. We could not have asked for a better son-in-law. We are so proud of all that you have accomplished and hope you are ready to have us visiting a lot more often. Jim wants to know if the sheets are clean and if the beer is cold. And Carrie, our daughter Carrie, you survived being raised by 2 law enforcement officers where we made you volunteer in the records section of the sheriff's office, entering reports, and all the times that we said no to protect you, and the times that we embarrassed you, like you already heard about, Dad going out in his underwear, confronting those boys that were smoking cigarettes. And then we also apologized for the time that she came home from a sleepover and she said, I had the most delicious brown crinkly stuff. And we were like, what in the world did she eat? She had bacon for the first time. We were so health conscious. We had never eaten bacon and she'd never had any. She just wanted that delicious brown crinkly stuff. We cannot be more proud of the accomplished woman that you've become, and just the way you presented up here today, I just couldn't tell you how proud I am of you. It was wonderful. It was like, oh my gosh, look at what you've done. You're wonderful. We are looking forward to spending more time with you and Tom, and of course being grandparents sometime in the near future. No pressure, just saying. You've heard it from so many people. Okay, my husband Jim. Many of you may not know that I was actually hired by the St. Pete Police Department as a patrol officer at around the same time that the Sheriff's Office authorized my transfer to patrol. Jim and I had just committed to a more serious relationship, and we discussed the options, and I agreed not to accept the position with St. Pete under one condition. I said, you can never tell me what I can or can't do at the Sheriff's Office. Don't ever tell me I can't go for a promotion. Don't ever tell me what kind of job I can work. Just don't go there. He retired with the St. Pete Police Department in 1990, the same day our daughter graduated from kindergarten. And I said, honey, you need to go back to work. And he did. He came to work for the Manatee County Sheriff's Office for 18 years. And you kept your word, and you were supportive of everything I did at the Sheriff's Office. The long hours, the middle of the night phone calls, and there were many, the call-outs and sacrifices that come with the job. I can never thank you for all the love and support you gave me during the past 36 years that we have been together. A wise person once said, choose a job that you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. And I can honestly say that has been my experience these past almost 39 years. I have truly loved every assignment I've worked at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, and each of you has been a part of a cherished memory made in my career journey. It has been a privilege and an honor to have worked with so many dedicated men and women throughout my career, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank you, and I will miss each of you terribly. And I'm sorry I cried at the end. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. We do have cake in the back, and if anyone else would like to come up and say a few words, we do have this facility, I think, until 2, so keep talking and enjoy some cake. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful afternoon.